Hello. Today we'll take a look at a battle between Carthage and Mark commanding Athens. The map is Octoduron, which is a map that always has been fairly unbalanced. I believe it has been changed in recent patches. But still, as you can see from the elevation indicators on the map is fairly one-sided when it comes to elevation. It can be argued that one side has the advantage of being able to move up through the woods, but the elevation difference is massive. So poor Mark here, he's starting down all the way down here with Athens, and I'm sitting here comfortably on these hills, and I can on the high ground, and I can also use these woods for flanking as well as these. So not really a map I'm too much of a fan of. If I'm starting down here, I'm at a severe disadvantage. If I'm starting up here, I have a pretty significant advantage. But still, the map looks nice, I guess, with these mountains and the autumn forests. So, the builds are 4 picked hoplites, 4 hoplites, 2 citizen cavalry, and there will be 2 more citizen cavalry hidden over here, and 2 Hippeus lancers hidden over here. My build consists of 3 Libyan infantry, 3 Scutari, 4 mercenary Iberian swords, 2 late Libyan hoplites, 4 Carthaginian cavalry, elephant general, and 3 mercenary Balearic slingers. So at this point, this is all I can see from Mark's army, so I am pretty sure he doesn't have skirmishers, unless he's hidden them over here, but usually skirmishers aren't hidden. So I'm thinking he probably has some more cavalry, which is yet to be revealed, but moving the cavalry either through here or like he's doing now or here, it's going to take quite a lot of time, and I'm just going to keep my cavalry in close proximity to my skirmishers so he isn't able to pull off any surprising moves. Now, these picked hoplites are targets of priority because they are very deadly in close combat. They can deal with anything I have here, so I want to weaken them as much as possible before starting the engagement. So I started firing at them with my mercenary Balearic slingers. Nice to have some Balearic slingers to do damage before the engagement starts, and these guys won't drop very quickly. They have 105 armor, 45 of that being shields, so they'll be able to absorb a lot of hits, but it will force my opponent to move forward, which he needs to do anyway since he doesn't have skirmishers. But he is moving forward here without significant cavalry support, and as you can see, his narrow formation will enable me to, when the engagement starts, to envelop him fairly easily, and it won't be easy for him to outflank me without me having the time to do something about it. So I'm pulling my slingers back and sending my mercenary Iberian swords up to start firing when these guys close the distance, which they inevitably will. I'm shifting my cavalry units around to defend the flanks, and also I'm putting my elephant general a bit closer to a flanking position and potentially to stop any cavalry coming through here. So now these picked hoplites are going to advance under a shower of javelins. They're already losing quite a few men. So these are javelins both from the Libyan infantry and from the mercenary Iberian swords. So his general is taking a beating. I'm going to charge in here, which is he's going to activate phalanx to be able to hold better, which is a good idea, but it's going to further contract his formation there. I'm going to hold off on charging here for just a little while. I don't want to engage these late Libyan hoplites against these hoplites. I'd much rather pull the hoplites up here so I can deal with them with cavalry and elephants. Now over here I am going to do fairly well against his hoplites and his picked hoplites because I managed to damage them, but even so you can see the melee combat is even here. He managed to catch some of my late Libyans, but I'm going to send in elephants and destroy his hoplites that way. Now I really don't like that you're able to do what I just did. Charge straight through one of your own units, do no damage to it, and then smash the unit on the other side. The same goes for chariots. It's just an idiotic game mechanic that is very exploitable. So here I managed to run into his citizen cavalry to stop the flanking attempt by them. They're going to go down very quickly indeed. Over here he charged his Hippeus lancers into the flanks here on my mercenary Scutari, which I believe was a mistake. It's going to allow me to envelop his Hippeus lancers both with infantry and cavalry, and that way they will die pretty quickly. These hoplites are starting to waver. They haven't lost a lot of men, but they are losing the combat decisively, and the fair effect on the elephants is making itself felt. Here he pulls out 2 more citizen cavalry, but they won't be able to stop the flanking maneuver of the African war elephants, and they're not going to try either. At this point I believe my opponent called GG. I was a bit impatient with my charge here. I should have lined up my elephants better so they would have hit more units at once. Still, they're going to be able to get some important kills on this picked hoplites. Able to finish off this unit of hoplites with a rear charge from Carthaginian cavalry, and now there's wavering going on all across my opponent's front line. He has elephants in his rear and really not much he can do about it. So my opponent brought a fairly two-dimensional army that, from what I could see, had the goal of pinning the enemy's melee troops up against his own front line, and then being able to use a pretty strong cavalry force to go around, deal with skirmishers, and go for rear charges. But it can work. It needs to be said that this map did not work to my opponent's advantage. It worked heavily in my favor because these guys had to run uphill and fight uphill, so a bit of an unfair advantage to me there. But still, sometimes you're the butcher and sometimes you're the butchered. The last few fights are finishing up, and that's the end of the game. Decisive victory for Carthage, not getting a huge amount of kills on any of these units really, but just some kills on nearly all of them, and yes, the African war elephants were able to do fairly well, and the picked hoplites fighting uphill and being weakened from slogging it against those javelins and slingshot aren't going to do too well. I think this type of build is very difficult to use unless you can deal with all of your opponent's skirmishers very early. That is going to be difficult with these cavalry units. They are not the strongest cavalry units, they can be effective, but it will be hard to catch skirmishers with against an opponent that keeps all of his units close together. But anyway, it was a fun game, although it's a bit frustrating that the maps are so one-sided. You're basically screwed if you are placed at the wrong side of a map in a lot of cases. But GG to map, Mark, and I'll see you again on the battle.